The yeas are 50, the nays are 50, the Senate being equally divided. The Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the concurrent resolution as amended is adopted.
That was Vice President Kamala Harris on the economic relief just after 5:30 a.m. Friday. After an all-night Senate session of voting on amendments, the Senate passed the $1.9 trillion stimulus package by a vote of 51-50, with Vice President Harris casting the tie-breaking vote. The House, which approved its own budget bill on Wednesday, must now act on the Senate's version, which is expected to do that within a day. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders had this to say about its passage. With the passage of this resolution, we have the opportunity not only to address the pandemic, to address the economic collapse, to address the reality that millions of kids have seen their education disrupted. We have the opportunity to give hope to the American people and restore faith in our government to fight for them. Some more information on what's contained. The main budget resolution would provide for stimulus payments up to $1,400 per person, but senior Democrats have talked about narrowing who qualifies to low and moderate income families. Senator Todd C. Young offered an amendment to block stimulus payments to undocumented immigrants. It passed with eight Democrats voting in favor. Democrats rejected GOP amendments related to packing the Supreme Court and blocking stimulus checks from going to inmates. It will still be a few weeks before this becomes law, as the budget reconciliation process requires a few weeks. Democrats are eyeing mid-March as the deadline for final passage of the relief legislation, because that is when enhanced unemployment benefits will expire. Marcus, I know you have a lot to say about this, especially over our break. So definitely lead us into the conversation.
Something is better than nothing. That's what I want to say. I mean, there's a lot of American people hurting. I'm going to go positive than negative. There's just too many American people that need some kind of support, right? Like we're at the point where people are hurting so bad. Like, you know, this was $1,400 that should have happened, you know, almost a year ago, right? Yeah. We are going into almost a 12-month lockdown of America virtually, where people can't work their normal jobs. So something is better than nothing, right? That's the good. The bad is, does the American government hate its people? And I say that because, yes, you give us a one-time payment, right? But we needed $2,000 per month, bare minimum. If I repeat this every single show, I just want it to stick. The amount of money that the military-industrial complex gets is enough money. Like half of that will cover all of Americans for a long time, right? We put $720 billion into the military-industrial complex. This relief package is good, but I mean, imagine the amount of evictions that have happened. Imagine the amount of and we don't have Medicare for all. So imagine the healthcare bills that people have acquired during this pandemic, where people are actually catching COVID, right? The medications that are needed, right? If you do have a car, like when was the last time you could afford an oil change for it, or gas, right? The gas has gone up and down since the pandemic has started. Like, there's real world problems that are happening, and $1,400 a month is not going to cover it. And then for them to limit it to a certain group of people seems a little unfair to me this time. Like, give everybody their money. Like, unless you are a multi-millionaire, what makes you think that somebody who makes $60,000 can't use $1,400 right now? Right? What makes you think that, like, everybody should get $2,000, except if you're a multimillionaire and you've proven it? So they're trying to, the American government is nickel and diming you. Be glad that you have the money that you have right now. Not taken away from that. Like, well done. we beat a Republican stalwart that you know, and by the way, shout out. This is like the first time Kamala came down from Senator Harris came down. I mean, Vice President Harris came down from her seat and said, "Bang bang, Democrats win this thing." So shout out, man. You're welcome from Georgia, all the way live from Georgia. You were very welcome.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome for that. So enjoy your little $1,400. You better spend it very slow. Take small breaths.
Who's spending that slow? No one's gonna spend $1,400. We already spent it by the time we've seen that's what's we're gonna get. Since the $2,000, you know me. Since we've been on this subject, every time we talk about it on the show, I'm like, listen, whatever you tell us, especially people who are not who don't really care about what's going on because they're suffering with so much. If we hear that you're gonna give us $2,000. I already went to go see where I'm spending that $2,000. People who are in debt or need this money to feed their kids, to go to school, to buy supplies, to pay their car note, to figure out a place to stay, whatever the reason, have figured out where they're going to spend that. Then, you know, we did get that $600, still thinking that we were going to get that $2,000 because I'm always going to circle back to that. And we didn't get that. Okay, fine. Now we're going to get this $1,400. Ain't no spending slow. People are looking like, just give us the money. Just give us the money. We need it. There's like from what it's been, like you said, almost a year it's been since this pandemic. And people, we got in funds, once? And some people still didn't get that second payout. So like, thank you. But can we, I would love to see this without all the stipulations that it has, where some people aren't going to be able to get it. Like you said, Marcus, even if somebody's making $60,000 right now, they could be taking care of family members who have been laid off, who need a place to stay. Money, we need that money. So that money is very necessary, especially in a time like this. So, I mean, thank you for it. Hopefully we can get to somewhere where we can start talking about making it happen where it's monthly, because it's very necessary. I don't know why America thinks that's hard when other countries have done that and been able to control their pandemic so much better. The pandemic that, in their countries so much better, but we're here supposed to be the greatest country of all, and not able to support our people. It's wild to me. It's wild to me.
And they're also using the 2019 numbers, right? They're using the pre-pandemic numbers to determine who should get this money. And for millions and millions of Americans, their 2020 looks much different than their 2019. The unemployment numbers show that. People who, have lost their jobs or been cut back significantly, the whole country was shut down for a couple of weeks there for a while, especially as people were getting, okay, well, I need to get all of my equipment from the office and put it at home and all that stuff. And so, the numbers seem incredibly arbitrary. What's the difference in their minds between $50,000 and $60,000? Why do you think that $10,000 makes such a difference that those folks don't need this $1,400 that's coming? And as you mentioned, it's going to be mid-March. So we're talking about another month, 6 weeks, maybe. So I am, again, thank you, as everyone's saying, but I'm very hopeful that some of these Congress folks who are talking about it really push for, relatively significant money on a monthly basis, until we can get this thing under control.
Exactly.
That's right.
Most definitely.
They owe us, man. Come on, man. Let's just keep it 1,000, right? Like, keep America going. The trickle-down economic theory that y'all are going, and this is trickle-down economics. I hope everybody understands this. The American government knows perfectly well that they just gave very wealthy people the biggest tax break in American history, and they can't give people on the ground, real American citizens, raw money because I don't know. They think we're all going to go to the strip club with it. I don't know. I mean, we need to pay our groceries on a monthly basis, and so this bill is good, but it's also a big old huge gaslight. I want y'all to understand that. Our government is gaslighting us right now with this money and with how much money they have because they can afford it. We're in a pandemic. You're supposed to take care of your society within a pandemic. They are so used to American citizens struggling, right? Man, listen, first off, white folks, y'all need to start getting more mad about this. I hope, because when everybody else struggles, the government doesn't really care. But when white folks start struggling and making a lot of noise, so don't let this pandemic fool you. Don't let this money fool you. Don't let this, and we need the rest of our money. That's $600 extra too. Right? I won't run me my check.
Like you said.
Yeah. But on the same token, like everybody needs to be upset, and you need to call your Congress people. And you need to say to them, why don't you like me? Why aren't you pushing for consistency? And that is like multiple calls. I hope there's somebody out here who is organizing around this to make sure that they call your congressman and put pressure on your congressperson to actually give you enough money per month. Make this a monthly thing until we get up out of this COVID, right? Because without that, I mean, how are people paying rent right now? And I do legitimately ask that question. How many people are paying rent right now? Simple question. How many people are paying rent? I mean, I didn't see anything magically happen that made us be able to pay rent all of a sudden. People lost their jobs.
Lost their
What
homes.
happened? Can somebody give me an update on like what happened? Like did everybody get distance jobs now? Did everybody get hired by Amazon? Did everybody like somebody needs to let me know what was the difference between last summer when people were losing their apartments and right now.
Ain't no difference. It's even worse. People are homeless, displaced, people hungry. Right. It's like, I don't understand why that's not something that the government who's supposed to, like I said, America's supposed to be for the people. And this just shows us every day that they're not. Like, they don't care. For themselves. They would. Yeah, they're for their pockets. They would rather open up the country like at the height of a pandemic for people who want to go get their roots dyed, to attack essential workers, healthcare workers. It's wild. It's crazy to me. And we're not being assisted. Ain't nothing changed. Ain't nothing changed. Some people were blessed to be able to take their jobs and transition that into their homes. Some other people just were laid off and not knowing when the business was going to start up. Some people lost their businesses and don't know when it's going to start back up. Some people lost their family members to COVID, having to pay for what was left behind, having to pay for funerals. There's so much things that are a result of this pandemic that have left people in shambles financially, emotionally, all types of ways. And they think that slapping a Band-Aid of one-time payments, not monthly, nothing, but they think that slapping the Band-Aid of $1,400 is going to help you out when you know that can't even pay your rent, your car note altogether, or feed your kids or your family or whatever the case may be. That one-time payment is just enough for you to shut up and go live large and in charge.
Right. And people were struggling already before the pandemic. So now once the pandemic started and all of this stuff started happening, it got worse. So you giving us 600, and I say us because I'm in that number, giving us 600, 1,400, 1,200, and all this money like over 6, 7, 8 month period. By that time, we so far behind, it is no catching up. Why do you think some people take this money and just go spend it frivolously, whatever the hell it is? Because they so far in the hole, it's nothing else to do. Yeah. Like, I'm so far in the damn hole, man, I'm still catching up from stuff from last year.
I'm going to buy me a couple of O's.
Keep making arrangements.
I'm going to buy me a couple of O's. I'm going to buy me a couple of O's. Yeah, we're going to flip this. It's going to be a quick flip real quick. And while you're tripping,
send my money to you. Then.
No. Seriously, while you're tripping, that's why the gig economy is doing well. That's why people are starting up their own thing. Because if you don't use, some folks are using this money to actually just say, all right, you know what? Forget rent. Let me invest this money into another way for me making money, right? And that's what Wall Street. That's why Wall Street blamed the stimulus checks on GameStop. They Wall Street people actually had the nerve to say, y'all gave all these Americans money for stimulus checks, and then they went and they beat our hedge funds out with GameStop, and they're mad about that. If you think the American government hasn't, because their lobbyists are better than your lobbyists. They have lobbyists. Wall Street has lobbyists. You don't. Remember that, America, right? So when you go and do something crazy like beat out a hedge fund by investing all your money in GameStop and making some money back from it, they don't like that much, right? So we gotta watch out for what the Wall Street lobbyists and Wall Street itself is doing right now and during this pandemic. We got to watch them very closely because, as we all know, the richest men in America on average made $20 billion more during COVID. $20 billion more on COVID, right? During this pandemic. Go ahead, Mondale.
Yeah, I heard a conversation y'all having. I think I'm just thinking about like what's to come, and I'm excited about the fact that it took only 2 days to pass the stimulus. As soon as the Democrats took control of the Senate after the organizing resolution a couple of days ago on Wednesday. So we finally took control of the committees and were able to appoint chairmanship. We were able to push this through in 2 days. That says we're going to have a busy year, hopefully. And that's what it looks like. They're not going to play with the Republican shenanigans. That's what this all-night vote of Rama was about. Republicans were just trying to push all of this craziness, add all of these amendments. And while we didn't get federal minimum wage raised to $15 an hour, I'm super excited about the fact that in 2 days we were able to pass this $1.9 trillion almost stimulus, which means Democrats are going to shove some stuff down Republicans' throats. I also think the sister had on, vice president had on her mask, but I still could see her doing her trademark smile under the mask. And that to me almost let me know that she's going to take joy in breaking a lot of votes.
Right.
And I think to see the Democrats, the caucus stay strong and all of them vote for this COVID relief plan says a lot about what's to come. And I'm super excited that Chuck Schumer is not going to play games with Mitch McConnell and their shenanigans. So
I think that's
tuned,
right.
hopefully.
As much as we can get done in the next 2 years, right? Because 2024 is not guaranteed for any of us. The elections, if it doesn't feel like it, but the elections are right around the corner, 2022 as well. The House is up next year. And so we need to get as much done as we possibly can while we have control, because nothing is guaranteed.